knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That mean you really playing with your life. I'm about to come and run it all back. I'm the new era, about to snap back. You ain't fitting for it cause you all cap like. Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this go up. You know it's all net when it go up. Yeah.
What up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Off the Grid Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Race Liberante, with my co-host. Well, I guess we're both co-hosts. Christian Marsh.
Whatever, bro. What's
Best
good?
buddy, whatever.
Best
cool.
buddy.
And our guest tonight is one of my team drivers' parents, a customer of ours, valued friend, somebody that I can say is one of my best friends now, Henry Korn, father of Gage Korn.
What up?
What's up, buddy? Now, everybody by
show.
now at the go-kart track, if you've ever raced at the same place Gage Korn has raced, you've either heard Henry, heard his wife Kaylee, or seen his other son Moose, or you know how talented Gage is. One of those things leads you to the Kronbred family.
Has to be true.
Dude, it is like, I wish we could just always have cameras on this family because they're a ride anywhere they go. I mean, a couple weeks ago now, we were at the Nashville Grand Prix, and Moose, their son that walks around with a mullet, I mean, the kid is just crocked up, on tie-dyed up, cut off sleeves, like just an animal. And
Proper.
He ends up in Aero McLaren cleaning Rosenquist's car. Spray bottle and a rag, and somebody's teaching him what to clean, how to clean it.
I literally watched the whole thing go down. He just walks up to the team manager and goes, "Hey, Billy, you got something for me to do?" And Billy's like, "Yeah, I mean, I guess we can find something for you to do." Next thing I know, Moose is like over the fence in the tent. He's got like the operations manager over, like critiquing his work. He's on his hands and knees scrubbing body work. And then we turn around. He's got the hat on. He's got the McLaren sunglasses, just ready to go, dude. Fired up.
Dude, Moose is the stud at the track, man. It's the best.
100%. Moose is one of my favorite track kids, definitely. And obviously getting to know you and your family, dude. Gage is such a little talent. You guys are just the best. So we're stoked to have you on the show and just chat about karting for a little bit.
Hell yeah, man. Thanks for having me. I love it. Love you guys. I mean, it's family.
100%, dude.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So for those of you, like, this isn't just like my plugs with my kids or anything like that. You know, we've had a couple guys that are close to us to kick this stuff off. But I think it's really important to have parents and families on shows like this too, because, you know, they have as much of a voice and really a perspective that some of us that are either industry members or even kids or participants in racing, you know, maybe we don't have that perspective that some of these parents or our parents even do. So it's nice to have, you know, somebody on here that can explain or kind of walk us through how they got started in karting. And for those listeners out there that are getting started in karting and you find yourself struggling with the everyday struggles of learning a new sport, I mean, it's a lot to learn to get into the sport. It takes years to perfect it. I mean, some guys, you know, I've been doing this for my whole life and I still haven't perfected it. It's just not, the recipe's not just out there. So a lot of it's experience and really if we can help blaze an easier trail for you to save you some time, to save you some money, to excel your kid's career a little faster, that's what we're here to do. So we wanted to bring on Henry to ask him some simple questions and really hear his story on how they got into karting, what's helped him progress and what's helped his son's career along the way and what they're planning for his son's future and how to get there.
Yeah, man. And even just what it's like to be a parent of a talented upfront young driver in karting nowadays. You know, that's obviously a perspective that Race and I don't have. It's not a perspective that you usually hear from on a karting podcast. You know, most of the time it's just drivers and even just current drivers who are popular that you hear on these shows. So I'm really stoked to just kind of dive into this and get to know, you know, a little bit more about Henry and kind of share his story, going to the track and racing with his family.
So kick it off, Henry. So how did you?
I mean, started.
Just go. It's got to be. He's on an internet
probably
delay.
About. It started probably about 8 years ago. I was drag racing cars, and I just got sick of waiting in line for 3-4 hours to go 10, 12 seconds down the track. It just I lost interest in it real fast, and parted out my car. I got a hot rod to build. Most of you guys know my rat rod and stuff, and I bought a shifter car off Craigslist, a shifter cart off Craigslist. It was just a rolling chassis. I traded a KT100 go kart that I had, the first go kart I ever bought. I traded it for a CR125 dirt bike. Took the dirt bike apart, put this go kart together for a couple $100, and went racing with the Colorado Karting Tour. It was a mess, a fucking mess, man. I don't think I made a session happen for probably 2 races. A carb fell off, a wheel fell off, like embarrassing as shit. You know what I mean? And just kept going at it. Did that the first year. Second year, bought a $500 Briggs Sodi go kart with Briggs racing as well as shifter racing. Did pretty well in the Briggs racing the first year, then bought myself a little bit nicer go kart, and then it really took off and did really good in Briggs racing as well as shifter and stuff like that. I had a bunch of buddies help me. Ryan Rudolph was a good little shifter mentor for me in the club. Won a Briggs championship with the
And
club racing.
What year is
no
this?
Big
Like
deal.
around what time frame is this, and how old is Gage at this time?
Gage is probably 4 years old right now, 5 years old. So this probably year 2 is he got his first go kart from Christmas. He was 4, or actually 3, about to turn 4. So he practiced on the streets and stuff like that. It's cool when the Facebook memories pop up of him driving down the street, locks the brakes up, spins, mom screaming, Kaylee screaming, all nervous as hell. And then Gage, I got him. He did kid karts for I think 2 years. He was all right. You know what I mean? He wasn't anything special, honestly. He was 5th place driver average. And his second year, every single race he was 2nd place. There was one kid we just could not catch. We did everything, and this kid was just good. And then, unfortunately, that family kind of lost their funds for go-karts, so they couldn't even get into the cadets, the next step up in the class. And Gage moved into cadets. Our first, we started in junior 1. I think we had a little Bennett cart was a takeoff with somebody. And then we got a Micromax. And then I was racing 2 classes. Gage was racing 2 classes. And I was wrenching everything. I did it all. It was tough, but it was so much fun. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And then I saw Gage start to take off, and I took a step back, stopped racing, and gave 100% focus to him. And really, when we were with Christian Bird racing for a while, and then Race came out to. This is the first time I ever met Race. Race was like a big internet star to me. Sounds homo, but I've watched Race on winning all these races with Comp Kart. I'm like, dude, this dude's name is rad. Race Liberate. I was like, it was cool to watch. It was like watching a NASCAR driver, but in go-karting. And he came out to Grand Junction to Ridge for a kid. And this story, I first met Race. He was in my buddy Leo's go-kart on the grid, and I went up to smack my buddy Leo in the head or push him, do whatever I was doing, talking shit. And it was Race Liberate. And he stood up out of the go-kart like, what the hell are you doing, bro? I was like, oh, bro, you are not Leo. My bad. And ever since then, we've been homies and kicked it off. And 2 months later, I got a random text from Race. Hey, man, I started my own company. I want your kid to be part of it. And here we are now, however many years later it's been.
Fucking classic Race Liberante sneaking out onto a racetrack with somebody else's suit and helmet on.
Dude, I paid for my practice. I did typical me fashion. Don't bring your gear to the racetrack. Like everybody preaches, and you should all do this. So don't let me lead by bad example. Always bring your stuff to a racetrack.
100%.
If you're going to watch in the stands, bring your gear because you have no idea what is going to happen. and half the time I end up driving with rental kart helmets and
Yep.
borrowed suits, and it's just kind of a mess. And yeah, makes me look like
It's
crap, but
embarrassing, dude.
it is what it is.
No, that's
But yeah,
dude, that's a rad story. I didn't know all that.
yeah, I mean, dude, I didn't even know half of this stuff, but I knew Henry raced a little bit because, dude, Henry jumped in my go kart for a practice session at Rock Island,
I
and he
remember.
was like top 10, like first
Yeah.
session out, and this is like last warm up before the finals. So everybody's been on track 10 times already, or whatever, 5 times already, and he just hops out there and he's top 10. I'm like, okay, Henry can drive. And he's like,
Nobody
see, dude,
believes
I won
me.
a few
Nobody
races.
believes me. I can I can
100%.
wheel a go kart, bro. I'm not very good, but I can still wheel. I like
He
to
gets
thrash.
around.
All right.
I
He
like
gets
it. I
around.
like
He
it.
stepped back like every parent should when their son goes faster than them.
Yeah.
That's
Pretty
the
That's an
day you're like,
important
all
thing,
right,
dude.
this is a backseat time for sure for me.
Yeah, it's man, I gotta tell you, my son just turned 5 and he doesn't really seem to quite have the interest in racing yet. But I mean, like we talked to David, I don't necessarily think it's beneficial for kids to start at 5 or younger even. It's different for different kids, but I think that like when they turn 8, 9, 10, like they're just easier to coach. Like it's almost like, why not just wait until they can really grasp what you're telling them anyways. And like the worst, man, I don't know what it was like out in Colorado. Some markets tend to do good with this, but I've seen some ferocious kid cart situations where like parents are spending way too much money. They're fucking on their kid's ass about performance at 6 years old. And like a 6 year old can't make the decision of like, oh, I can either make dad proud and win this race, or I can like settle for second and not put me and this other kid in a unsafe environment. Kids don't have the ability to make that choice. So what was the atmosphere like kid kart racing in Colorado? Is it like more of a fun thing where like you're getting kids in, teaching them the basics, or was it more cutthroat?
No, it was definitely fun, man. We had a great time with kid karts. You always have my boy Richie. You have the crazy kid kart parents, you know what I mean, and shit like that's how I
Yeah.
met Richie was through kid karts. But no, we had a great time. That was our entry. We bring people in, made sure it was fun. Like this guy I work with now, it's fun for his kids. If they're done, they're done. Let's go get ice cream. You know what I mean? That's you have to make it fun. I mean, that's what I preach to everybody at the go kart track. Everybody always asks me, Henry, why are you always in a good mood? Dude, I'm at the fucking go kart track. You know what I mean? This is what I live for. So we always
Yeah.
made it fun. If it's cutthroat, why are we there? You know what I mean?
It's so important, dude. So many parents need to hear exactly what you just said, man. What a good lesson to share.
Yeah, you
It's
can always
why
hear
we're
Henry
doing
up
it.
and down the pits, bumping something, having a good time. He's definitely bringing some life to everybody's party when he's there, and that's lead by example. Seeing the way that the family has invested their whole family into it, and even down to Moose, like the kid that he races once in a while. He does some of the local stuff and has some fun with it, but for the most part, Moose is hanging out, helping clean, organize tools. I mean, the kid's into it on that end too, so it's a full family venture for them, which is pretty rare to see. Every part of their
Yeah, and
family
if it
is
was it,
interested.
if Moose didn't like it, we wouldn't be doing it. You know what I mean? The kid loves it. He loves watching his brother. He looks up to him, and it's his favorite place to be is at the track, rolling around in the dirt, rolling around in the water, like you know what I mean. So we
Dude, the
make the most
highlight
of
of
it.
this kid's day is literally when we empty, like when we get new cases of tires. You get, as a team, we probably end up with 7 or 8 tire boxes by the end of the weekend. And that kid makes the craziest forts out of that and fuel cans. And he's just forting up in there, making snacks for his friends, sharing Lunchables. Like he's having guests. Like, dude, it's our own VIP section for kids. Like,
That's so
they
dope,
just
dude.
they just roll them all in. So, yeah, no one like hearing that story. Like, how many years up till now? Like, obviously, Gage has won a lot of the CKT stuff. He's been very successful. He's had his ups and downs on the national scale. But at what point, how long did it really take for you to understand like what it was going to take to compete at each level? And did you take it step by step by step each way? I mean, right now we always see a lot of kids, they start out, they do some club stuff, and then they jump up to the top, and then they go, why am I not winning here? or, struggling their way through it, feeling like they're wasting money or spending too much at that time. Like, and I feel like they skip a step in the middle of that. And you guys, in reality, let's be honest, like the funding hasn't always been there to even go right to the top step. I mean, it's always been a sponsorship thing, or we got to win this championship to get this ticket. And that's been the strategy for what we do with Gage for the last few years. So, walk through those building blocks by running the CKT, the guys that helped you regionally, and then how you guys kind of crawled your way up to the national scene.
Well, I mean, we started the national stuff with Christian Bird. We did a little bit here and there. We went to Rock Fest and stuff like that, whatever I can afford. We never showed up with the best shit. I could never afford the best engines or stuff like that. So I always tried to. I'm a wheel and dealer, man. I trade something else to get something better. You know what I mean? He did. I mean, I knew he started winning at CKT, and it was time to try something else. I'm like, hell yeah, I had no clue about national racing and stuff like that. We always had this kid, Enzo Swan, was the local cadet hero. This kid was the badass that we always looked up to, you know what I mean? And Gage is that kid now, which feels cool. And is cool because he's looked up to at the track. He's what everybody wants to come and see. We started the national thing. I don't know if there's a stepping stone or a correct pathway. You know what I mean? Because we can't afford to go to all the races. We go to the ones that are close to us, the Challenge of the Americas, go to Amarillo or Grand Junction, all the close stuff. And I think that was the farthest we ever went is to Charlotte for a rock race, and that hit the pockets hard. And we did decent. You know what I mean? Like Christian said before, you expect so much out of a 7-8-year-old kid. And it just doesn't click with them, I feel, at that age. I mean, every kid's different, but it was frustrating at times. Why are we doing this? I mean, there's been so many races. Me and Kaylee were looking like, why is this happening? It was a whole first year with Race Factory. Just the kid puts it P2, P3 qualified and wrecks in the first corner. And it's just, you're like, why? And you turn around and go home, or you show up the next Wednesday for the next race. You're like, this is why we do it. You know, that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is probably the best time you're having at the go-kart track until stress starts hitting when qualifying comes and stuff like that. It's definitely been rough. It's been rough on the family a lot of the times. Money wise, I mean, sometimes we'll skip bills to go racing. It's just how it is to keep the kid going. And just like all the other racing parents, we hope he makes it into IndyCar or Formula One, just makes money racing. You know what I mean? I've invested my life into this kid. So.
But a good question to follow that up is, like, obviously, there's one thing about, like, yes, this is a dream, this is a hope, but obviously, like, one of the main points definitely hitting home with this episode is that's not like the front lines of why we're there, right? Like, at the end of the day, we're building character, we're turning Gage into a young man. He's talented, obviously. We want to compete for wins here, and we want to have fun doing so. And if that career path happens, damn, we succeeded. But if not, fuck, man, we're still making memories while we're here.
I tell people that every day. I go broke racing every weekend. Like Nashville, we had the best time of our lives out there. You know what I mean? And it didn't end as well as we wanted it to, but it did end as well as we wanted to. Flying home, it's all about the memories with my family, man. Whether we make it or not, you can't pass up the childhood with the kids because they're gone before we know it. Like my baby boy's 9 and 11 years old, so
it goes quick, man. It goes quick, and especially, like you mentioned, going to Nashville with the whole family. Like, some of those memories are gonna mean as much as going to any race that you guys are actually competing at. Getting the opportunity as like a young driver who's on that path, on that trajectory to some sort of career in motorsports, for him and Moose to get to hang out with people like Felix Rosenquist and hang out under the Arrow McLaren, SP program, get to see the way that environment works, get to watch racing with some of these people that, you know, are legends in their own right that these kids look up to. That's got to be an experience that'll stay with Gage and probably your whole family forever, right? That's like stuff like that is just super cool.
100%. Yeah, and Gage's mechanic. He works for Arrow McLaren on an Indy car, so Gage is just like over the moon. You know what I mean? He sees it's possible. That's the best
Yeah.
part about it, and it's cool that we take all these pictures and we post all these pictures, and you look at the Formula One drivers. Like I always see George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. George Russell's a little dude with Lewis Hamilton, and now they're both doing the same thing. You know what I mean? So hopefully, I mean that's our goal. We'll see if it happens.
And like you said, dude, even the like your mechanic Devin Smith Harden, DSH, he is a mechanic and a tire guy on the Arrow McLaren IndyCar team. So I think that's an important note too, like with what Moose does, even at this point in Gage's karting career. You know, if there's 30 seats at an IndyCar field for people to, you know, make their living as a driver, there's another 2,000 positions that are just as critical to the success of that Formula Car team or any team that don't necessarily involve driving, but are still an excellent way to like make a living and do something that
your
you're
passion.
passionate about. Yeah, exactly, man. The passion is so much more important than the money. And like you've got it right, in my opinion. Like fucking go broke every weekend to spend that time with your kid because tomorrow you might not have that opportunity anymore. So like screw your retirement, screw whatever the fuck else you're trying to do with your life. Take your kids and make those memories. I don't remember the shit I had as a kid. I remember the ride to the track with my dad. Like that's the shit that's important.
Right.
Yeah,
100%,
100%.
man. That's
Yeah. Fuck
Dude,
yeah, man.
that's what I like just love watching and why we, you know, these are like all the reasons why we continue to try and do what we do. Cause like even Devin's a great example. Devin goes from, you know, being a kid that I mentored and really been a part of the HMG side of things when I was with the Kart squad and we were doing that whole deal together. And I kind of got to help like turn him into a kind of help breed him into a man, I want to say. But then to top that off, he gets opportunities because of people we work with in karting, like alone, to go and be something in motorsports. And that's something that, you know, now with our partnerships, even with the MPG guys and Billy Vincent, obviously huge piece of Arrow McLaren SP. You know,
hell yeah, Billy.
Yeah, right. He, you know, that's part of what we're trying to grow is like just opportunity in general to stay in motorsports throughout your career. Like if this is something you truly, genuinely love, I have friends that it's crazy to me to think back to the kids I grew up with racing. And I'm like, man, we've duked it out pretty hard. Like what happened to that guy? And they're like drywalling now or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, I mean, clearly they weren't that like passionate about it to stay in it, which is cool. But like, you're like, oh, dude, fuck that. Like I could be laying drywall right
Fucking
now or
bummer,
like
dude.
sweating pipe together like this fucking dude does. And I'm like, no, thank you, man. I'm cool with helping raise these kids and coach these kids and hopefully, you know, just be involved in that on the day to day. And man, it's just so cool to see like trying to build something that you can now see that like the kids saw that like somebody that they looked up to and they watched race and they worked with as a coach and a mentor. Now doing something as a career path in IndyCar, like that alone is like super cool to just witness as a child.
Yeah.
I think that's where we bring Billy in, man. Billy is what all of motorsports needs. This is the most genuine human being. You're standing out there, just grabs people, brings them back, and gives them tours of
It's
the
not
place.
that
You know
simple.
what I mean?
It's not quite that easy for everybody.
Well,
out there.
I mean, he's just a
Yeah,
genuine dude.
No, next time they're you know, at an IndyCar event, there's just gonna be a line of people that are like, this
Like
guy on
Billy
this
Vincent?
podcast
Billy
said
Vincent?
that if I hung
You know
out and
Billy?
waited for Billy, I just get a fucking
All
I get
right,
to hold
fuck, my
Felix's
bad.
wheel.
Yeah, not exactly how it works, everybody. But you know, no, yes, his point is there's people that
like
are bridging
him.
that gap to the professional
Yeah.
ranks that are helping introduce these kids and these people. Not even kids, like there's mechanics out there, even kids that like I would love to groom. Maybe a kid like honestly, like a kid like Ian Quinn's kind of the right style kid. Like kid's super invested in his own karting. He works on his stuff. He takes himself to races sometimes. You know,
Yeah.
super involved with asking questions. And you know, a kid like that, you can mold into somebody that can do a hell of a job through the go-kart ranks, and you can teach them the same philosophies and procedures that go through the IndyCar ranks, and then you can push them off to that as their career when they're ready to go into that kind of
Yeah.
scale. Like even something like that being built, what we're trying to do with something like that is just bridge that gap to the whole other side of motorsports. Because honestly, if it isn't for go-kart racers, family like the Corns that, you know, I mean, dude, that whole family's into Scott Dixon and they have all the apparel and they're like buy the merch and everything. Like they're the customer. They
Yeah.
are the people that you need in the sport for it to stay somewhere up there. I mean, it just is what it is, but giving it a path to end and like a place to thrive in is like so cool.
Dude, I think if anything, those of us who have been like lucky enough to get the opportunity to leave the karting industry, even just temporarily to work in programs like IndyCar, SRO, IMSA, things like that. Like we have a responsibility to try to help the next generation of people accomplish that same trajectory. Like I don't know about you, but there were people, like very definitive people I can look back on in my professional career that like were integral in me kind of making my way into, you know, that part of the
100%.
industry, whether it's like John Walco when I was a nobody, you know, bumming it, taking pictures at a Formula Car race, like vouching for me to some of like the Indy Lights teams and stuff, like, hey, no, let this guy come in, like let him show you, you know, and then you get all the way up through like personal relationships to drivers that make connections happen. We have a responsibility to try to offer that same service that helped us to like anybody else who wants it. I think that that's super important.
Yeah, and that experience. I mean, learning from even some of the mistakes that these people from our generation have made, and you know, the things we've learned from the previous is all kind of on our hands to pass down,
Yeah.
and that's all we can try and do. Um, to Henry, I want people to kind of understand too. You're one of the few. There's not many people that have been able to also race internationally from the United States, and it's something that walk us. I want you to walk me through, and I know the story, so I'm not even the right person to ask the question. But
Tell
from
me,
finding
Henry.
the sponsors, from finding the sponsors to even raise the funds to go do it, to the trip itself. I mean, it's the first time for some of the family even out of country, and you guys are going to a different what was it, a 24-hour plane ride across the world to go compete for a world championship at the Rotax Grand Finals. Like that's an opportunity that there's only a handful of drivers even get to go race overseas.
Right. So yeah, I mean, the first time we were supposed to go to Portugal and COVID hit, 5 days before we were supposed to leave. So that sucked big time. That took a lot of wind out of the sails. You know what I mean? So we came back harder that the next year with race to win that championship and get that ticket again, and we did. We went to Bahrain. One hell of a show. Rotax does an amazing job there. Like you said, getting the funds to go, that's an expensive trip, man. Something I couldn't afford. I worked my ass off. I'm a plumber by trade, so go driving in a truck to another job. I'm on the phone talking with people. I have no clue how to ask for money. Like that scares the shit out of me. Um, but once you start figuring out kind of how to talk to people, exactly what's going on, ask for money, this, people just start wanting to give it to you. I was going to friends. A lot of my friends are business owners. They'd toss me $1,000 here, $1,000 here. People I compete against at the racetrack all the time. Hey, dude, we see Gage is doing good. Here's some money. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And fortunately for us, it's not. I mean, we're going to Italy and then cross our fingers, hopefully go to Portugal or Rotax again. So international racing that's like Ray said before, that's what we're chasing. We can't afford to go to every SCUSA, USPKS, and that kind of stuff. Our main goal, I told Race this year, is getting tickets to go overseas. I feel that's the most important thing. to my family and to Gage. Where I mean, we went to Bahrain and Gage shined, man. He was fast. He set the track record. He was P2, P3 in all these practice sessions, and we just had a little bit of bad luck in qualifying, leading the pack and towing people to pole in front of us. Lessons learned at an event like that, and he just wants to go back. He knows what he could do, and I think that's where, I mean, the switch flipped for him. He knows he can do it. I think the problem back in the States was all the kids on the track were his friends. You know what I mean? He's a real uh loving, emotional kid, and he doesn't want to wreck his friends. I swear the kid, he doesn't, no, I'm not, hopefully not jinxing shit, but he doesn't wreck. He's not that kid. He gets wrecked, he won't wreck into anybody. So that was kind of the switch when we went to Bahrain. Is nobody was his friend on track. He knew zero people, so he put his head down, put that visor down, and just drove, and it showed. And I wish it would have ended better, but we came out with our heads high at that event, and hopefully the experience will carry us better going into the Rock Super Final in October, and hopefully in Rotax again, man. So that's our main goal this year, is to go to world events. We honestly don't give a shit about anything else. It's our last year in Mini, and we're trying to make the absolute best of it.
What's that Rotax event like, man? Because there's some things about that race in particular that are really unique to the Rotax Max Grand Finals. Like I know there's a
100%.
chassis lottery. Everyone shares like a big circus style like tent space with strangers, and I mean there's some things that make that event special. Grid girls.
Great girls. Yeah. So I haven't been to Rock yet, so I only have one event to go off of. But as I talked with everybody that's been to all these events, they say Rotax is hands down the best. And I feel that way. It was organized, it was flawless, it was, everybody's on the same chassis. So it literally comes down to driver. And I think that was part of why Gage shined. You know what I mean? We've never been on the best equipment until we've been with race, when he gets the motor program, a freaking fast ride. You know what I mean? So everybody's lottery engine. So nobody's bringing their $10,000, $20,000 engines. They're handing you an engine. Here, make this shit work. Same with the go-kart. You can't do shit to them besides change the front end, stuff like that. The carb sealed. All you can change is your jet. So it just eliminates a lot of the bullshit out of the sport that we battle with all the time. And that's why I like that event so much.
That's dope, dude. There's some other Americans who have had some success at the Rotax Grand Finals. I know Sam Beasley. I don't know if he won it one year. He was definitely up front. Really top contender in the Rotax stuff. There have been a few. I think Brent Cruz probably has two, if I'm remembering correctly, two Rotax International Final wins.
Diego LaRock. I think Connor Zilic is one. So, I mean, you look at those names, and my kid could be one of them. You know what I mean? You go up and compete against those kids. That's pretty fucking rad.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And those kids are savage. They are crushing it right now. All those kids, Brent Cruz and Connor both beat Race at Nashville a few weeks ago.
Kick my ass.
But no, man, those kids are. I think that Brent Cruz and Connor Zilic are like, in my mind, if you ask me who the superstars of that generation is, it's those two kids. So to see them come through a similar program and have some of that success there, I think really speaks volumes to the path that you guys are taking with Gage right now.
Yeah, it's kind of like a cut out of his chapter. You know what I mean?
Thanks,
their
man.
book that they're writing.
Yeah.
That's what they chased a lot of that international stuff and got him the most seat time and experience. And that's pretty much the move with the boys too. I mean, move them up as soon as possible, feed them to the wolves as often as possible. And if they swim, they will go far.
That should be clipped out and put on a fucking t-shirt, dude. That's some off the grid gold right there.
Gold.
Absolute gold, dude. Yeah,
on the 35
time
minute mark.
time mark this bitch. Fancy stuff. That's that's
Shit.
probably, I think that would sell better than our Track Mom certified t-shirts.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know if we can put that on a t-shirt yet. I think we got to prove ourselves a little bit more.
yeah, I don't even know if Track Moms like this show, but I genuinely hope they do, because we love Track Moms and we hope Track Moms love us. Um, so Henry,
Oh, man.
so are you like a first generation racer? This is something that kind of becomes a common topic on these shows. Are
Yeah, so
you a
like, how'd
first
you even get
generation
into
karter?
drag racing? Like, how'd you even get into that?
Yeah.
Like, that was the start of your racing career. So, like, what started the prompt, the move? Were you always into cars? Was your family? Like, what's the deal?
Definitely not in the family. I mean, my mom has a lead foot. She always says I got it from her. But it started as I was younger than the boys now. I was 6, 7, 8 years old. My first neighborhood I lived in, my neighbors Ron and Jan. Ron used to take me to the dirt track. We used to have this Rocky Mountain National Speedway right by DIA. Not there anymore. Not there anymore, unfortunately. But it was dirt track racing. I fucking love going to the dirt track and getting the checkered flag for $5 and picking up all the tear offs that would collect in the fence. And it just sucked me in. I had a neighbor probably 10 houses down. He lived right when you entered the street. He had a bomber, number 55. I'll never forget. He used to go over to his house and I was that probably, hopefully not that annoying kid, but the little kid that would come and check out the race car, watch the dude wrench on it and shit like that. And then he had a sprint car, a 360 sprint car he moved up to and followed him through that. And then he got in a real bad wreck in the sprint car and he bought a drag race car, a front engine, rear seat, old school drag car. So my dad would take me up to the drag strip and fell in love with drag racing then and go to the Mile High Nationals every year. And that's kind of how I got in. I wouldn't say kind of got into drag racing. And when you turn 16, you get a car and you go fuck around on the streets, you know what I mean? Make it faster and you hang out with the car people. And that's what I did. And built a little race car, a little Mitsu 4-banger. I mean, it made a lot of freaking power, 600 horse, and went drag racing with it. And I just, at that time of my life, I couldn't afford it. We were the broke dicks. You buy a car part once or twice a month. And I got sick of that and bought a go-kart. The first time when I got that shifter on the track, you could go all day for $40. All fucking day until your tires wore out. That was the best part about it. And that's what drew me in, was not sitting in line for 3 hours to do your drag, you know what I mean? And fell in love with karting. The club, I mean, you know my personality. We fell in love with the club. We helped the club, became involved, became vice president, took over, was helping out because you want to see the thing grow. And it took over, man. You can't get out of it now.
That's dude, that's sweet that you got into drag racing, like, basically from a neighbor. Like, if it's not something your family really did.
Well, like,
Nope.
think about that alone. Like, what if anybody that participated in racing, we just opened our garages someday and just tinkered on our shit, and a little kid, there's kids walking up and down the street, I feel like, still, right? All the time.
Probably.
My street, there's always, I mean, stopping that kid, you can talk to that kid and just, all it takes is somebody to interest them. And like so many of us, I feel like that's a great topic. Something that we should all kind of do a little bit more of is get a neighbor or somebody we know more involved, like introduce them to the sport. There's so many people even that know or participate in other forms of motorsports like drag racing or motocross or whatever else they may have been into that don't even know go-karting exists, which is weird to me, but it's the truth. Like, somebody finds out about it somehow, and all it takes is some kid walking up the street and you're tinkering on your go-kart outside or in your garage or whatever. Like,
I think
all the time.
Yeah, dude, open trailers have something to do with that too, though, because like everybody
sure.
now, if you're like mom and pop going to the track, you've got a little 12-foot enclosed trailer. There's not a picture of a go-kart on the side of it. because you don't want people to know what's in it because people fucking rob go-kart trailers all over the country constantly.
Yeah.
So like that's a part of like your neighbor would maybe see you loading your go-kart up in the morning. Like I know when I was a kid, everyone that lived around us knew that we read race cars and go-karts at the house. And like everyone knew what was up. If you know, it's that old adage, like if everybody who does this tells one person and then they tell one person, eventually go-karting is going to be fucking sweet. I think
Yeah.
that like if everyone just takes that initiative a little bit more, like you can change the sport 100%.
For sure. Race has been to my house, man. I unload all my go karts out of my driveway, clean my garage, clean the shop, and when the kids are coming out of school, I swear every single time somebody stops, talks about go karts, parents driving up the street asking about them, and I was always a dude at the go kart track that let kids drive my shifter cart. I got an old beater CR 125, and a kid had never had a shot in hell. Like my buddy Dave Williams, I never thought the kid would drive shifters. Put him in my go kart, and the kid was hooked. And the kid is a badass now. You know what I mean? I don't give a crap. I want to see people do it. And I talked about Billy at IndyCar. It's the same community in IndyCar. They're always willing to help each other and stuff like that. It's the family aspect of this sport is hands down the best, and that's what I want to continue it and make it better. I wish it was bigger. People don't understand. They still look at us like we're boondocks racing around a slick track or something. And I really love the Formula One documentary, the Netflix special, because it's bringing a lot of people into go karting, whether we like it or not. It's working.
Dude, I think that's come up on probably every episode of this
It has.
podcast so far.
It's
You
real.
should
I mean,
get royalties. or
Yeah,
something
dude,
from
it speaks
Drive to
testaments to
Survive.
like what they've done because not only have they really made an engaging, easy to consume version of Formula One racing, of open wheel racing, I think almost every episode of that fucking show has go karts in it somehow. Like it either has someone,
Everyone.
yeah, it either has someone talking about racing karts as a kid, or guys that go pound laps in KZ karts on summer break, or
Yeah.
you know, and it really showed it in a light where like it made it really clear that the point of us showing you this is for you to understand that this is the path, that everyone who's driving one of these cars started off racing go-karts, and you can probably do that if this is something you're interested in.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's it's been great. I mean, we've gotten a lot of calls on people from like, oh yeah, hey, we heard about this and we Googled this or that, or mutual friends of, like my girlfriend, like people outside of motorsports. Do you watch Drive to Survive? And you're like, what, you do? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're an accountant. Like that doesn't make sense. But that's what it's
But
opened
it's just
eyes to.
it's a cool fucking show, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, any
Why
form
why
of
doesn't
content.
IndyCar have it?
They're working on it. I'm assuming they've got to be. But
I mean,
Come on.
I
If
think
somebody's
no, I think
blind.
I saw an interview with Penske that he was basically like, yeah, no thanks. Like, we don't want the reality TV show thing here. And it's like, dude, the reality is that especially in like America and countries that aren't necessarily as openly into motorsports, it's made such an impact on attendance at like the USGP at COTA. And the fact that going into 2023, we're going to have 3 F1 races in this country, that's 100% because of Drive to Survive. 100%.
Yeah, and I feel like it speaks volume to even the, let's think about the interest level of Americans in motorsports in general. Like that's some good news for the go-karting community too. I mean, like Henry said, I mean, there's people that have been getting into the sport already because they got introduced to that or may have seen that go-karts are a thing on that show, and that's a gateway to a potential career path in motorsports. But just building that interest level, those are people we're going to start seeing at indoor tracks, right? Trying it more as a hobby. They're going to be people that might be reaching out or show up to a local international circuit with a kart track attached to it and check it out. But those are all potential people to get into the sport. But it speaks volume of even the current participation that they're willing to bring that level of attention to the States.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. I think like you hit the nail on the head too with circuits that are at like big international car tracks. I think that poses a unique way to introduce people to the sport too. Because like we talked about with like the Nashville Grand Prix is when you go to a racing event, it's not necessarily race fans. A lot of times it's people who enjoy public events and that sort of entertainment, environment that they're going because, at Coda for the F1 races, there's concerts. There's, Taylor Swift is playing or whatever. Same thing for like Nashville or the Snake Pit of the Indy 500. 80% of the people at the Indy 500 are probably just people from Indiana that like to party. And like that's a big Indianapolis party. Like that's a community thing.
Right.
But if those sorts of events are like, if you're telling me that you go to the Indy 500 and there's a temporary circuit racing karts in, in the parking lot or whatever, even if it's just exhibition style, that's something I remember back with the Cleveland Grand Prix back in the IRL kart days was
Right.
like there was a go-kart race there. Like I got to pound laps on a go-kart track in the parking lot while there were Indy cars on the track, and everyone that walked by that setup that might have been a passive fan, they're like, "What the fuck is this? Like we could do this? Like this is accessible to, people that are normal people and not, millionaire race car drivers."
Well, that's why I love races like the Rock Island Grand Prix, and I finally got Henry to come out last year for the first time to
Yeah.
the Rock Island Grand Prix, and it's like you can't even explain the energy, and it wasn't even a great year for the event. Like it's the year after COVID, so things still kind of suck. Businesses that were there, bars that were there that we used to pop, to and from, we're still kind of closed or recuperating. So, it wasn't even the best of energies that the event ever, but it was enough. Like it's enough of an event by itself when thousands of people are watching you race go-karts, like you're the big show. And the nightlife after that, the time you get to have with your competitors, and it's not like going to Supernats or something like that where we're all against each other per se. Obviously, you're against everybody on the racetrack, but when it's more of that like regional, local, down, homegrown kind of real raw racing feel, that's what brings out that energy. When we're done Sunday night, we're just having a fucking great time.
Yeah,
And
dude,
the
you're just
banquet,
partying with
was the
locals.
best.
The banquet was hilarious.
Dude,
The banquet was
Andrew
hilarious.
Meduso.
Budoso, oh my god, had to have been the best karting
That was
speech in the
Ever.
history of the sport.
probably the
I
most
mean,
I've dissed in a karting speech too.
listen,
For
I
sure.
know that it was like at your expense, but when he was
No, it was
like,
hilarious.
bro, I just, I left it all out there on the table. I used every last inch of the racetrack. Those guys, they were maybe missing a couple inches. Alexis knows what that's like, and everyone
Yeah.
just like, oh shit,
Yeah,
like
that was fucking hilarious.
yeah. For
He is
Andrew
still
to
king.
come up with
He
that,
is still king.
that's, yeah. Are you gonna take that back this year? Are you
I
gonna
don't know.
run? You gonna bang gears?
I just look back at those right there, and I'm like, oh, well, I need to add a few more of those to the table. So yeah,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna put that whole deal together eventually. But I'm kind of glad he's been out of the seat too. So he just got
yeah.
back in once a month ago or so. So I've been a little more active than he has this year. So,
I will.
might be a fair fight.
I will drop this here because it's probably a little known secret at this point. But AJ Myers is signed up for the Rock Island Grand Prix this year to run King of the Streets. So
Yeah, that's honestly like the icing on the cake for me. Like, okay,
so rad.
I want to race AJ on the street
Yeah.
for sure.
And just the fact that like, the number one, arguably number two shifter kart driver in the US right now is like, oh, Rock Island's an event I want to go run. And throughout the history of the event, dude, it's always been that way. I mean, everyone from like guys like Alan Rudolph and some of the West Coast guys that have always been a part of that event. It's cool to see, especially in the shifter class, people still like you said, an event that's maybe died off a bit in popularity or growth. To have the shifter guys still be like, oh no, I want to be a part of that. Like
That's what
it
I hope
still
AJ
means
does.
something. Yeah.
Hopefully more people come in since they see AJ or they see Race Liberate. You know what I mean? That drags
Yeah.
more people to race or come watch. Like a Chase versus race and Chase versus AJ kind of thing. You know what I mean? That it just draws people, and I hope it works. I think it'd be fucking rad.
Whoever won, for those of you that don't know, last year at Rock Island, Race Liberante and our friend Chase Jones from MPG had this fun little thing where they were gambling on who could win the most races, and I don't remember whoever won that. Was there ever like
I won that one
okay,
by
but
1
Chase,
point.
by 1 point. How many races did he win that weekend?
So I won. What is it? I think I won 2 or 3 rocks that weekend. I entered 6 classes.
Yeah,
I ended up wadding my fucking brains out on Friday or Saturday. I don't even remember what day, but it was in a Briggs heavy heat race, and I wadded my brains out.
yeah,
And I had
you
to
like
go.
ate the end of the barrier, took out a track systems light.
Yeah,
Like it was
yeah,
bad.
it was bad. It was so bad, and I had to get in a shifter cart because I was up on the grid. Like I was getting out at the scale line to go jump in my shifter to do another heat, and I like hobbled my way over there back into the cart, and like the rest of the weekend I couldn't use like my left arm very much, so my head started flopping over a little too early. And it was just a shit
Oh
show. But I think I
no.
won 2 rocks and got 2 seconds that year. But yeah, Chase and I ran against each other in all 6 classes. So it was a race between like heat races were 1 point, and then the finals were 2. He beat me in more of the heats, so like going into the finals he was ahead, but I won the first the memorial race in Briggs Heavy, and then beat him. And then I won, King of the Rock and KA. He was leading, chain broke, so he would have won the overall if he didn't have a DNF. I also got my head wadded off, so I also didn't have that shot. So it evened out to where I won by 1 little point.
Yeah, that's just a testament to prep, though. I mean, if your chain's coming off, you lose the point, man. It's part of
Yeah.
racing.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, it's definitely a variable that's of the norm, right? But I think the key thing with like that event and like what we did there, and honestly, we did it again. We've done it a few times. There's not very often we're actually racing against each other because now we work together. So the deal is like either I'm racing as our lead KA driver or whatever, or he is, and I'm managing the team and vice versa. So we're more or less working together on that. And the only races we get together are 4 or 5 a year, maybe. So, but it's like one of those other things that him and I just came up with to have fun, and it was cool, and it's like something we've tried to make a thing, and it's just more eyes on us. Like, dude, the amount of social engagement we got from that after Daytona, like the first time it was kind of cool. We got a lot of engagement, but like once we made it a thing at Daytona, and dude, like our reels and stuff were getting 20, 30,000 views on. Like it was ridiculous. Like Burkle was piecing them together every day. Like, and we made it a cool thing. But like, I just want to highlight that because that's something like I've been coaching guys like Henry and his kid, and like the things that, dude, all it takes is you to come up with something fun, like the hog riders thing. Like I don't really understand what that is or what group of kids that is, but dude, they're doing their thing. They're selling T-shirts. They're raising some money or doing whatever the hell they want with it, blowing it on each other and having a good time, like whatever it is. But they made a little clicky thing, you know what I mean, and do a small brand, and it's like keep going after stuff like that because that's what's gonna keep pushing you ahead. That might be what attracts a sponsor. Like, dude, that's how the Metal Militia or any of those brands and those kind of
100%.
bonds started.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's something that the Race Factory team in particular does good with young drivers. Obviously, with Alexis owning Red 171, it gives these drivers access to like absolute top of the line marketing, development, branding. Like just for her to be able to teach the
Shameless
importance and yeah, man. I mean, respect where respect is due. Like people that improve the sport, I think that's something that obviously like SCUSA has done great at like setting the standard for how you market a racing event. And people don't even understand like all the marketing and content and everything you get from SCUSA. Like there's professional car series, like no dig on Trans Am at all, but like there's series like Trans Am or like some of the formula, like lower formula car series that if they changed their social marketing program could have a totally different place in the market.
Well, and the beauty of all that is the guys that you're talking about that do this killer job are the same dudes that work at the go-kart track, which isn't that crazy?
It's amazing. It's so fucking cool, dude.
That's why I wanted to, like, when we talked about taking the kids to the IndyCar stuff and seeing what a professional event's like I encourage people when there's a local professional race, one, go support those guys because if you ever want to make it there, you better go spend some money there too. Two, get enough of a pass or something to go see kind of how these guys do what they do. I mean, granted, they have a lot of the manpower, they've got bigger budgets, whatever it may be, but if you can just watch and observe and just see the way that a professional motorsports atmosphere is given, like it's all around marketing and branding and presence and just how you carry yourself as a race team, as a driver. That stuff alone is something you can learn and start harnessing early in your racing career and start building and excelling at your brand. Because it's all free. It's right there. Like there's no secret recipe. Like nobody's figured out something crazy or brand new, really. Everybody's just following that same path. I mean, it's right there for you to copy.
You've just got to fucking do it, dude. That's it.
That simple.
Like you literally, it doesn't have to be good. And the chances are, if you just start to do it, like anything, man, you've got to be willing to suck at shit to eventually someday be good at it. So like you see these kids like Gage or like Buddy, even some kids that are off Race Factory, like Cadence Presley.
There's plenty of them that kill it.
So many kids that are taking the responsibility for like, oh, I need to offer teams and sponsors more than a result. So I have to create a brand that helps them execute, that helps me execute. And like so critical for young drivers to be doing that. Or even old drivers. Like you're never too late to start and trying to put a program together. And there's so many tools out there to learn how to do it. You've really got no excuse.
Well, to be quite honest, like one of the big things that attracted me to Gage wasn't even so much like the only reason Gage stuck with me in my head when I left an event I just happened to watch, and I watched the mini class. One of the things that really stuck out to me and the only thing that kept his name in my brain was Kronbred, which is Kronbred Motorsports, their racing name, right? Like, but they came up with something, they came up with a brand for him. Now he had a brand associated with him. You know what I mean? Like, what do you call a painkiller most of the time? You call it Tylenol. It could just be the off-brand crap, and you're calling that pill a Tylenol. I need a Tylenol. Like, right? Like, that's
100%.
It sticks with the brand and the name. So, like, it wasn't Gage Korn that stuck with me. It was Kronbred. Like, oh, that Kronbred kid. Oh, who's Kronbred? Like, that's what people say when they don't really know much about Gage. That's what you hear, and which is his brand. Like, they have branded him. So that's the page to take out of all of this is like taking a guy. He's a fucking plumber. Like, you know what I mean? He's not buku bucking it. He has no employees. He does this himself. You know, he hires some laborers and does this. And it's a real blue collar guy. And he's making ends meet enough to take his son around the world to race through sponsorship, through branding. And he's no expert. Again, he's a plumber. He's not a social media guy. They have been figuring it out, failing a few times, picking up the pieces and moving on and keeping trying because this is a dream of their families to achieve. So the message here is like, we can all sit here and play the money, like blame the money game, and we can blame the equipment and we can blame this and reasons why we're not here and be miserable about it. But at the end of the day, if this is something that you love and you're passionate about and you guys want to excel in race careers, this is the reality. Nobody is cutting a go-kart driver a check at the go-kart track. It's not happening. Nobody's watching you there to put you in an IndyCar. It's not fucking happening. So one, enjoy the time you have there, gain the experience you need, and work on the side as hard as you can if this is something you want to excel in, regardless of your budget, to continue to excel through your sponsorship, through your branding, through your social. There's plenty of things you can do to offset the cost of going racing in motorsports.
100%. Put the work in.
Yeah, we tried, man. I mean, you hit it on the nail. I didn't even know that about you knowing us by Kronbred. You know what I mean? That was something Kaylee came up with, all random as hell. And thanks to her, you know what I mean? She's a badass about this, and I thank her for everything. I don't thank her enough for this.
Shameless plug.
She's the one to do. I'm giving her credit, man, where credit's due. So thanks to her for that. I didn't think of that. So
yeah, it's just little things like that. Like just ultimately, like please, everybody, be you. Like, do your thing. That alone, like, sets your brand aside. Like, I can't express it enough. Until I learned how to be myself and do what I thought was cool, and like just be me and express who I am. It's not that wasn't until anybody even gave two fucks about me. Like, I thought I was molding myself into somebody that really I was trying to groom myself for NASCAR at a young age. So I thought I had to be prim and proper and, good old boy kind of attitude. And it wasn't until I stopped giving a shit and just started being myself and trying to be the best version of me I could be, that I started even picking up people that were even interested in working with me. So I think that's huge in itself. It's just, don't be embarrassed by anything. If you come up with a logo you think's cool and your friend calls stupid, just roll with it, dude. You can always fix it later.
Just be authentic, dude.
Just go.
People really resonate with like someone who's being authentic and being themselves, and like don't try to be the thing that fits everybody's box, because if you're trying to be the thing that everybody likes or you think everyone's gonna like, nobody's ever gonna love you. Like the things that people are passionate about, the things that people are the most passionate about are usually things that somebody else fucking hates and like despises, but you're like, nah, this is my shit. I love this. Be that level of authentic in everything you do.
There's a perfect example.
Yeah. I mean, it is. You're absolutely right, man. That, not trying to flab on us, but we don't give a shit. We
know.
We are who we are.
Knows.
Everybody knows us. You know what I mean? We get in trouble at the racetrack. We're best friends with everybody at the racetrack. We get loud and rowdy. We're the first ones there. We're the last ones at the racetrack. So, like Ray said, we are who we are. Take us for who we are, or don't. We won't be part of you. So,
well, dude, I think, for us, tell everybody where they can follow Gage and how they can support Gage, on Instagram, Facebook, things like that.
I think the biggest thing right now, obviously Instagram, but Open Fender. Open Fender, I think, is going to be a huge platform. The crazy story is, I can't even remember part of it. Open Fender came from don't quote me, my wife's friend at work. They were talking about go-karts and racing and stuff like that. And she's like, hey, my brother-in-law is starting this company, this, and that. And I talked to this guy on the phone for like an hour. I was like, all right, here's an opportunity for my kid. And then I was like, Race needs to talk to this dude. This could be something huge for not only my kid, for everybody. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
I think that's the biggest platform right now, as we're always talking about sponsorship and money and simple things like that. And I think these guys are doing a really good job at it. But follow us on Instagram, Kronbred Motorsports. On Facebook, same thing, Kronbred Motorsports. Moose's Instagram got taken away. My emails and stuff got hacked. We're gonna make him another one. The kids,
damn it.
I love that you guys love him. Yeah, we gotta make Moose another Instagram because he loves that shit too. So,
hell yeah, man. Well, you heard it here, everybody. Gage has already got a ticket to one international final this year, so send his ass money so we can send him overseas. But man, Henry, it was great having you, dude. I think that this is gonna be, one of people's favorite episodes. I think really it's genuinely cool to hear from like a modern karting dad. And thanks for your fucking time, dude. We love you. We love having you here.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you guys having me. I'm nervous as shit to come on this, but I appreciate it. I don't do this very often.
Crushed it.
As always, boys, it was a pleasure. Obviously, as talking to my best friends, it's pretty easy to do. But anybody else out there, again, please subscribe to any of this stuff, and share in the comments kind of maybe some stories that you've wanted to hear, or if you want to be on the show, just hit us in the DMs, and we're always looking to just do something different than the norm, so keep it authentic and keep it off the grid.
Sweet. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. We'll see you on the track.
Hold up, I shoot my shot, wait, hold up. I'm really about to run this, go up.